Anybody know what the organic law is?
Yes.
Yes, we got some real researchers
Like
out there.
natural law, right?
I'm sorry?
Like the natural law?
The natural law, yes, it has everything to do with the natural law. The organic law of our country is the first set of documents in the United States Code. And it's supposed, what the organic law is supposed to do is supposed to suppress the politician on their making of law. Okay, it gives them guidelines on what laws they can make. Okay, and so, anyway, I'm just here to say that, I don't, whether you're Republican or not, I'm telling you, just saying making America great again doesn't mean you know a thing about American values. Okay? And just building a wall doesn't mean, it's not going to convince me that you believe in freedom. Okay? And so, anyway, I can measure, one of the things, I can measure whether a person knows what American values are by one simple question. One simple question. I'll ask them, okay, here's the question. What gave us the right to create this nation and tell the British government to kiss our butts? What gave us that right? And it was our right. We had a right to do it.
The Creator.
What gave us the right?
When they started abusing our natural rights?
When they started abusing our natural rights, I love you, man. I love you. When they started abusing our natural rights. And so, did you know that it's actually written into organic law of the United States that our nation was founded on natural law? It was founded on natural law. Natural law with natural rights, natural law theory. Okay? And so, we got some friends coming out here. How you guys doing? For those of you who might not understand what natural rights are, I can give you an analogy, and when I'm done with this analogy, everyone's going to really get what natural rights are.
In this screencast, we'll talk about the Ninth Amendment. Now, not a lot of people know what the Ninth Amendment does, but it's very important. The Ninth Amendment says that the Bill of Rights is not an all-inclusive list of rights. When the Constitution was written, many of our founding fathers were against having a Bill of Rights, and one of their arguments was, if we start writing things down, we're probably going to forget something. If we forget something, and it's not on the list, someone in the government might take that as license to infringe upon a right that we would otherwise have. The Ninth Amendment solves this issue. Once again, the Bill of Rights is not an all-inclusive list. In other words, not including a right doesn't mean it's prohibited.
I don't see him live either.
Keep up the great work, Justin.
Hey,
I thumbs
thank
up
you.
medium dark skin tone film projector movie camera.
Oh, I love her describing the icons. Horizon City News Service. He is based out near El Paso. Definitely be sure to give him a sub. He spends, I'll tell you, he does a lot of time on his videos. It's just very apparent. He is really spending a lot of time on this stuff. He kind of came out of the gate running. One of his first videos, he caught a stop of an El Paso policewoman arrested for DWI. And the police are after him for that big time. I mean, that really stirred the hornet's nest out there. And he could really use your support because they're gunning for him, and only with your support will he stay free.
Samuel Adams was born in Boston, Massachusetts in 1722. He graduated from Harvard College. In business, he was unsuccessful, but being brought up in a religious and politically active family, he became involved in the fight for independence from Great Britain. Adams didn't agree with Great Britain's practice of making decisions to tax the American colonies without any American colony leaders present to give their opinion. This was called taxation without representation. Samuel organized a committee of correspondence to unite other American colonists who felt the same way he did. He also traveled from tavern to tavern, sharing his political beliefs and urging colonists to resist paying the taxes Great Britain was ordering them to pay. He was a member of the Sons of Liberty and participated in the Boston Tea Party. He also urged the Continental Congress to write and sign the Declaration of Independence. He helped write the Articles of Confederation. After the Revolutionary War, he returned to his home state of Massachusetts, where he assisted in writing the Massachusetts Constitution. He served in the state Senate and was eventually elected governor of Massachusetts. He died in 1803 at the age of 81. Samuel Adams was United States President John Adams' second cousin and is considered one of the founding fathers of the United States.
In the year 1773, James Warren proposed that Sam Adams form a committee of correspondence. And this was a group that would write letters and then distribute these letters across America. The committees of correspondence would be in each town, and they would pass along news to inform the rest of the nation of injustices being committed in Boston. And in there, James Warren writes, "The rights of the colonists and of this particular province in particular, as men and as Christians and as subjects, to communicate and publish the same to the several towns in this province and to the world as the sense of this town." So in other words, we got atrocities going on here. We want to let the rest of the world know about it. You know, unless the world knows, it can go on.
Okay, and you're saying you spoke to Maria about an hour or so ago. Well, and that she's saying, hey, David might be giving you a call. Somebody might be giving you a call because they're saying I said something about David and I didn't. I said it was all me. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, if I have any more questions, I'll give you a call back. And I do appreciate your time. And I know it's a Friday evening. I know you're in Chicago, so you're an hour ahead of me. So I know it's Friday evening. So I appreciate your time. No, actually, I think you're Central Time Zone, aren't you? Okay, yeah, it's almost that time here. I'd have to look. But. All right, well, I appreciate your time, Stephen. Thank you very much. Okay, bye-bye. Sean. Brother's backing him 100%. Brother says no. I talked to the brother. Says that he got a call from Maria about an hour or so ago, so she could give him an update, let him know where she is, and that she says, hey, if somebody says something to you or somebody says something about David, I didn't say it. I told these people I'm the one with the suicidal ideations. David is not. So please don't believe that. And he's telling me. It's my sister-in-law. My brother's been a straight arrow. He's trying to do what's best for his kids. They're saying get the gun out, so he's trying to get the gun out. Yes, their kids are being dropped off, but he's coming back. I'm keeping the gun so that he can get back his wife, that kind of thing. And he's backing him 100%.
So what he told me is Monday he found out his wife had cheated on him, and that's what caused the whole him getting upset, and then her whole issue. He said they were meeting with the chaplain over on post.
Okay.
And they were trying to work that out. He says he's got a kind of grip on that, but I can tell it's still a sore subject.
But he didn't acknowledge anything about the gun on Monday?
He said that she came in the house looking for the gun, his gun, and he had it locked up.
But there's not a likely chance that I'm going to get that. You know, because they could, oh, well, you know, we got let go from this department, we go right over to another.
We don't have enough to take him.
Yeah, I mean,
unless you...
I can smell him. I don't know, but he's a big dude, so.
Right. Unless you think something else, I think we're gonna have to let him walk away with his kids.
Yeah, I don't see. Based on the information we have, I mean,
the brother's typing me out a statement. He's gonna sign it and email it to me.
Well, it came from them in their command center, However, nobody verified it. And so she was saying that was just what one of the MPs were telling her happened. I said, so y'all didn't verify this, but you're telling everybody this?
Yeah, watch your head. We're not.
So
He's on the other side of the door, your partner, because there's kids in there.
the suicide pack and all that stuff was all Monday, all because of the affair stuff. I don't. She's checked herself into the hospital. She's the one that's more of the high risk wanting to kill herself. I mean, for him, I don't have anything to take.
We're not. Yeah, we're not taking them.
We're gonna take them.
Okay.
Not my choice, man.
Who's gonna fill out the NED?
We got supervisor on the way out. So.
You got a supervisor fill it out.
The doctor that called dispatch, she doesn't think it's a good idea taking him over to Darnell because that's where she's at. So
I'm taking the metro collection.
Yeah. Well, then he'll be out in about 15 minutes.
Yep.
Which sergeant's en route?
I think it's gonna be Sergeant Bill.
Is he en route though?
I believe so.
Okay. Yeah. We're here talking to a gentleman inside the room. Has nothing to do with the daycare. We're just out of the rain. Thank you.
So instead of doing this on Facebook Live, I'm going to do it and just upload the video. But a lot's gone down the last day, I'd say. So I'm currently being held against my will at Darnell Hospital at Fort Hood because they have hearsay about me trying to commit harm to myself or others. Or my kids. It is patently untrue. Never said once that I was going to hurt myself or others. So I was arrested at the daycare in front of my kids by the Copers Cove Police Department, who said they made a medical decision on the spot saying that I wasn't fit or that I needed a mental health evaluation and that they were going to detain me and prevent me from taking my kids and doing what I want to do, which was take them away from the situation with my wife's command, who constantly abuses the UCMJ and their scope of whatever else they have. They constantly lie. They've committed HIPAA violations in droves, violate profiles. But yeah, First Cav, they're horrible. They're like the company that we're in. I don't know what company name it is, but it's Fort Hood's not the great place. This place is horrible. There's a lot of backstory, a lot of information that needs to come out, but I'm gonna let y'all know this: I'm being held against my will until they do a mental evaluation on me. My kids have been put in CPS, so there's probably some child molester out there trying to fucking fondle my kids. This is bullshit, but it's whatever. But yeah, so I could be held between tonight, I could be let go, or I could be held for 30 days, which affects my employer, affects my work, affects Maria's work, everything. I mean, just puts us in a bind, and just now I have to go to court on Monday if I'm released to get my kids back. And so this is one of those situations where I'm guilty until proven innocent. I don't apparently have rights. I was forced to come back to Darnell, even though there you have the medical officers here that made the snap decision in the first place to take me into custody and take my kids away from me. So, like I said, a lot of information to come out, but right now I'm going to upload with this. Just prayers for my family, and everyone just, remain calm. The kids are, going to go to my mother's after Monday. And then after that, like I said, I'll keep everybody in the loop. Shoot me emails, DM me, whatever. But like I said, it's this is just some shit, man. Darnell Hospital, Fort Hood, Texas. The not great place. And so much is going on. I'm going to release information piecemeal.
Today I'm wearing black. to signify the death of the Second Amendment if this week's Bad Bill of the Week becomes law in Texas. Hello, Patriots. Representative Jonathan Stickland here with the Bad Bill of the Week winner, House Bill 131, filed by the second most powerful member of the Texas legislature, the Speaker Pro Tem and Vice Chair of Calendars, Joe Moody, has filed a bill that would take your Second Amendment rights and throw them in the trash. Known as a red flag law, this bill would allow someone to file a complaint and say that you are mentally unstable and have a law enforcement agent show up at your home with the intent to confiscate your firearms. This has nothing to do with our constitutional rights. Due process is thrown out the window, and this threat by this author in Texas should be taken seriously by every single patriot and lover and defender of the Second Amendment in Texas. Here is what I need you to do, and here is what I need you to get your friends to do. I need you to call Representative Joe Moody and tell him that red flag laws are unacceptable, that House Bill 131 will not stand in the state of Texas. He needs to know that the Second Amendment is important to us because we know that it protects every other right that we have. Without it, they will slowly diminish. And that is not the Texas I want to leave our children. So please, if you have ever done anything on Bad Bill of the Week, this is the one I need you to take action on. Call him today, share this with your friends, and keep watching House Bill 131. Because if it becomes law, there will be no going back once they have their foot in the door. God bless you, and thank you for all that you do.
Well, just recently we had the largest mass murder in Texas history in a Baptist church just south of San Antonio. And our Senator John Cornyn and others have been making the big point about background checks and mental health, mental issues, but they don't seriously talk about controlling the automatic or semi-automatic weapons and things. Do you have colleagues that are interested in going deeper into that and seeing what we can do to deal with gun control in the state of Texas?
Yeah, I mean, that is a tough topic to broach in the Texas legislature. It's I give you an example. This session, there was a bill to reduce the fee for a what we used to call concealed handgun. We now have open carry in Texas, and so it's just called a license to carry. So they were reducing the fee to pay for these. They said we're going to take, I don't remember the amounts. Let's say it was 100. We're taking it down to 40.
Oh my gosh!
And I offered an amendment to say I'll lower it to 0 if you prove that you have safe storage at home. I didn't say what safe storage meant. A way to lock the weapon away. Because you hear about the accidental shootings in homes where children will get into people's weapons, and those are tragic. You know, I got 2 young kids at home, and that's absolutely terrifying when I think about that happening to someone's family. So all I said was, I will zero out the fee, but I just show me that you have something to safely store it at home, and if you do that, 0 fee, and they allowed 0 debate on that topic.
They just stared at you.
they shot it down. I mean, for lack of a better term, or things like an idea that myself and Senator Rodriguez locally had here were what we called lethal violence protective orders. So you look at a situation like you had there in Sutherland Springs. This is someone that was exhibiting some very violent tendencies. He should have already not been able to acquire weapons, but there was a mistake in the reporting. Now I think Senator Cornyn's trying to correct that, but. What about people that are exhibiting those things, exhibiting those signs? Can we issue a protective order on them when they're a danger to themselves or others? And it would prohibit them from purchasing a weapon, almost like a cooling off period. Prohibit them from purchasing weapons for that period of time. A protective order of that kind. We called it a lethal violence protective order. We took the same construct we use in other protective orders for family violence or for assault or anything like that, and so we tried to attach it to this situation, and boy, we couldn't muster the votes to even get that out of committee. So even small movements in and around that become very touchy in Texas.
Guns to be removed from someone considered potentially dangerous.
Texas is considering adding one that would allow law enforcement, district attorneys, school officials, or even family members to request that protective order from a judge. KXAN's Wes Rappaport explains how tricky it is to strike a balance between protecting Texas children while also preserving Second Amendment rights and due process.
You never get good policy when you base it off of emotion.
CJ GRISHAM opposes red flag laws that could allow temporary restrictions on people who pose a danger. He attended a meeting of lawmakers openly carrying his handgun.
If somebody feels intimidated, I'm sorry, but liberty is not predicated on someone's feelings. So suck it up, Buttercup.
But Judge Guy Herman says allowing this temporary intervention could stop more deadly attacks like the one at Santa Fe High School.
I don't want to see another Santa Fe happen again. There was information out that maybe had it been given to the right persons that we could have put a stop to that.
While most who participated in Monday's meeting agreed something needs to be done to better protect Texans, some were less unified on the exact approach.
This is really a suicide prevention effort.
I know that the storage issue is a difficult one. It's difficult to enforce. It's difficult for some people to say, how are you going to tell me what to do?
We need to do something that actually works. The problem I see is that all the stuff that's become the cliches and the bumper stickers is not going to make a damn bit of difference.
Wes Rappaport, KXAN News.
Well, this is just input at this point, ideas that will be combined with information from future discussions and ultimately inform new legislation proposed next year. Something they're going to have to consider as a criteria that would fit the protective order definition of dangerous.
A few other states have similar laws. A lot of others are discussing it. Each differs slightly. Connecticut was the first state to implement it in 1999. Indiana followed suit in 2005, as well as California in 2014, Washington State in 2016, and Oregon just last year. At least 24 other states' legislature are considering similar laws. A few of them saw bills filed shortly after the Parkland, Florida school shooting in February, but most were filed earlier.
I do want to come to Congressman O'Rourke because I know this is personal to you. El Paso is your hometown. Some on this stage have suggested a voluntary buyback for guns in this country. You've gone further. You said, quote, Americans who own AR-15s and AK-47s will have to sell them to the government, all of them. You know the critics call this confiscation. Are you proposing taking away their guns, and how would this work?
I am, if it's a weapon that was designed to kill people on a battlefield. If the high-impact, high-velocity round, when it hits your body, shreds everything inside of your body because it was designed to do that so that you would bleed to death on a battlefield and not be able to get up and kill one of our soldiers. When we see that being used against children, and in Odessa, I met the mother of a 15-year-old girl who was shot by an AR-15, and that mother watched her bleed to death over the course of an hour because so many other people were shot by that AR-15 in Odessa and Midland. There weren't enough ambulances to get to them in time. Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47. We're not going to allow it to be used against our fellow Americans anymore.
General warrants, the ability to search your stuff for any reason, was a big reason for the American Revolution. Prior to the Revolution, British courts issued general warrants called writs of assistance. These allowed government officials to enter any private home or business at their whim to conduct a search. General warrants never expired, and they could even be transferred to another agent. A person holding a general warrant could never be held responsible for damage they did to somebody's property. Basically, a government officer with a general warrant was above the law. Writs of assistance were a flashpoint in the years leading up to the Revolution. James Otis argued strongly against their constitutionality in what came to be known as Paxton's case. He didn't win that case, but his fiery speech heavily influenced John Adams and other revolutionary leaders. Otis vividly described the impact of the writs. He said, "Now, one of the most essential branches of English liberty is the freedom of one's house. A man's house is his castle, and whilst he is quiet, he is as well guarded as a prince in his castle. This writ, if it should be declared legal, would totally annihilate this privilege." In many ways, we've come full circle today. The NSA uses secret court orders to snoop into our electronic data with almost no limitations. They don't require probable cause of a crime, and they don't have to say what they're looking for. General warrants were unreasonable, unjust, and unconstitutional in the revolutionary times, and they still are today.
You're watching a raid for illegal guns. This is Glendale, California, and these special agents from the Justice Department's Bureau of Firearms have one goal in mind: seize these weapons before someone gets killed. The man who owns them isn't here, but among the weapons, agents find a .50 caliber handgun, the most powerful handgun in the world.
We've seized guns from gang members, from drug dealers, from felons, from doctors, lawyers, and everybody that fits in between.
Special Agent John Marsh says in this case, the gun's owner is just one of nearly 20,000 California residents who in all illegally own about 40,000 firearms. The owners are prohibited by the state from having these weapons for various reasons: a violent criminal history, a commitment to a mental institution, or a record of domestic violence.
So all of these people were supposed to turn their weapons in on their own, and then you're coming to collect them because they haven't?
Right. Whatever their commitment or conviction, they were notified that they need to relinquish their firearms. And for whatever reason, they've decided that they're not going to do that.
Here, the owner had been convicted of battery, yet he still had all this: 5 long guns, 2 handguns, including this .50 caliber handgun, plus 3,500 rounds of ammunition.
Somebody like him shouldn't have any of these.
Shouldn't have even one. Shouldn't even have one single bullet.
California's Justice Department uses a special database to cross-reference gun owners with those convicted of crimes. The names of those who can no longer legally own a weapon are then passed on to dozens of special agents statewide. It's not complicated, but California is the only state that has this type of program.
Anytime someone that shouldn't have a gun has a gun and knows that they should turn it in, you tend to question why they still have that gun.
Like this guy.
Why are they searching my car?
Because there's evidence in your car.
Of what?
Of what? Of the crime. With the guns.
It's just, it kind of bothers me, that I'm so cooperative and they're just, Can you please get them to stop? I'm taking that very, very personal.
They're not going to stop.
His name is Talimi Sassoon. He has a restraining order against him and 2 misdemeanor battery convictions, yet was still in possession of this .45 caliber handgun and this 9mm, which agents promptly seized.
They're both semi-automatic handguns, both of them registered to him.
After his arrest for illegal possession of a firearm, Sassoon told me it was a misunderstanding in court. He wasn't clear when he had to turn his guns in.
So in the end, do you think it's a good idea, the program?
To criminals, yes. To people like me, no.
Since 2007, this program has seized more than 10,000 guns. Last year alone, about 2,500, along with 120,000 rounds of ammunition and 11,000 illegal high-capacity magazines.
At this stop, agents searched the suspect's apartment. They didn't find any weapons there, but he directed them to his car. And inside the car, they found those right there: 2 AR-15 assault-style weapons, a rifle, and a handgun.
The owner of the guns had a warrant out for his arrest, plus a domestic battery restraining order. He was taken to jail, charged with illegal possession of a firearm.
Do you think that this program is making California safer?
I can unequivocally say that I know that my team has not only saved the people of California's lives, but they've also saved the lives of some of the people that we've taken guns from.
Randy, just to be clear, so these are folks who that were law-abiding citizens when they got the guns legally, for the most part, and then they broke the law, whether it's domestic battery or they committed a felony or whatever it is, or they're mentally unstable, so they're no longer allowed to have the guns. I'm amazed that California is the only state that has a program that tracks these people down.
I'm amazed as well, and so are these agents if you speak with them. California is the only state that has this very special database that helps them get the owners of these guns and track them down. But it's incredible, too, because they need more resources. There's only 33 agents, Anderson, in this state that are able to do this. And I know the Attorney General would like to double the resources, and so would the agents, because there are so many more names, as you mentioned at the top, 3,000 more names being added to this list on a regular basis. They cannot keep up at this rate.
So they're taking about 2,000 guns from about 2,000 people each year, but they're adding 3,000 new names to the list of people who have guns illegally. So, I mean, it's not a winning battle.
No, and that's why these guys go out there every single night. They work their day job during the day, and then they go out at night, and they try and get these guns off the street. And it is a very, very hard job. They never know who's behind the door. They never know what they're going to get. They get a lot of resistance from family members who don't always tell them where the owner is or where the weapons are. And communication really is key once they're out there. I mean, one of the agents told me last night that at his biggest seizure, Anderson, they got 600 guns from one individual.
Second Amendment, gun control. You've been on the NRA's board since '95, and this is a subject that you maybe feel more strongly about than any other.
I believe that
make your case.
I believe that a person's moral compass can be determined by how he references free men the right to defend themselves. The Second Amendment is so obvious to me, it's insane that there's an argument. God gave, let's pretend there is no document. Let's pretend brave families didn't leave the tyrants and the slave drivers of Europe so that they could practice the religion of their choice, so that they could speak out without being murdered, that they could produce wool without the king's men coming and taking it from them every season of harvest. Let's pretend none of that happened. Let's just pretend this guy named Ted Nugent parachuted onto Earth and woke up one morning and saw these wonderful resources and had dreams of excellence and being the best that I could be. I don't need a document, and I don't need another man to explain to me that I have the right to defend my gift of life. And that there is an argument in America from Hillary Clinton, from Barbara Boxer, Dianne Feinstein, from a whole gaggle of numbnuts who would try to tell me they will dictate where, how, and if I can defend myself. I find that preposterous. I find it unacceptable, and I will not accept it. I am a free man. Don't tread on me. A good, law-abiding citizen, not convicted of a felon. The Second Amendment of our Bill of Rights is my concealed weapons permit. Period.
That's it?
That's it.
So no limitations of any kind that you can see?
None.
That's it.
Mr. Trump has kept both Democrats and Republicans in the dark on what, if anything, he'll do for gun legislation for safety, what he's ever willing to support. Who knows? Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has said he will not bring anything to the Senate floor till the president makes clear where he stands. And yesterday, White House advisor Kellyanne Conway did little to clarify the president's position.
So Mitch McConnell says he wants to know what the president will support. Has he made a decision on that?
The president has been actively engaged on the Second Amendment issue the entire time, particularly after the mass shootings in El Paso and Dayton, and then, of course, Odessa after that. And he has talked just this week. I was there. He talked to Republican and Democratic United States senators who also are actively engaged.
I don't hear support for a specific piece of legislation. Does that mean the decision has not yet been made?
There is. Well, there are pieces of legislation that already exist that we have looked at. The president has been briefed on. Many of my colleagues in the West Wing missed their summer vacations. They've been working on this every single day.
Talking about the latest in the push for gun control in Washington, D.C. Are we going to see anything from President Trump this week, or might this all just sort of fade into the next news cycle? I kind of doubt that's going to happen. I really think the question is, what are we going to see from the president, not if we're going to see anything at all from the president. In the meantime, again, Democrats keeping up the pressure on H.R. 8, the quote-unquote universal background check bill that was already passed out of the House earlier this year, over on the Senate side of things. And they've got more gun control bills queued up and ready to go for full votes in the House over the next few weeks. You've got a hearing on a quote-unquote assault weapons ban measure coming up September 25th as well. Meanwhile, Senator Dianne Feinstein calling for a ban on magazines over 10 rounds. That bill has passed out of a House Judiciary Committee and could be headed for a floor vote in the House before long. So, again, the gun control activists, they still see this as their best opportunity in decades right now to advance their agenda, to get some new gun control laws on the books. At the state level as well, we're looking at lawmakers in Ohio and in Florida that are discussing expanding background checks. In fact, those measures have the support of at least a handful of Republican lawmakers. In Ohio, you've got at least 2 Republicans that are backing expanded background checks as well as a quote-unquote red flag law. Now, you'd need at least 9 Republicans to support these measures in order for them to get through the Senate in Ohio based on the current makeup. Florida as well, you've got a strong Republican majority, but they had a committee meeting yesterday in which they started talking about some of these measures. No votes are imminent. In fact, probably early next year before this Florida committee actually comes up with any recommendations on how to prevent these types of active assailant attacks, but it is entirely possible that we could be looking at some gun control legislation introduced in Florida as well. Right now, however, I won't say all eyes are on the Senate, but most eyes are on the Senate.
So let me finish, Madam President, by reading an excerpt from Neil Heslin's testimony that he gave to the United States Senate in February of 2013, 2 months after his son was shot. And I'll wrap up after I finish this page and a half of his testimony. My name is Neil Heslin. Jesse Lewis was my son. He was a boy that loved life and lived it to the fullest. He was my best friend. On December 14th, he lost his life at Sandy Hook Elementary because of a gun that nobody needs and nobody should have a right to have. I'm here to tell his story. I know what I'm doing here today won't bring my son back, but I hope that maybe if you listen to what I say today, that you will do something about it. Maybe no one else will have to experience what I've experienced. On December 14th, Jesse got up and got ready for school. He was always excited to go to school. I remember on that day that we stopped at the Misty Vale Deli. It's funny the things you remember. I remember Jesse got the sausage gets with some hot chocolate. And I remember the hug he gave me when I dropped him off. He just held me and he rubbed my back. I can still feel that hug. And Jesse said, "It's going to be all right. Everything's going to be okay, Dad." Looking back, it makes me wonder, what did he know? Did he have some idea about what was about to happen? But at the time, I didn't think much of it. I just thought he was being sweet. He was always being sweet like that. He was the kind of kid who used to leave me voice messages where he'd sing me happy birthday even when it wasn't my birthday. I'd ask him about it and he'd just say, "I wanted to make you feel happy." Half the time I feel like he was the parent and I was the son. He just had so much wisdom. He would know things and I would have no idea how he knew. But whatever he said, it was always right. And he'd remember things that we'd done and places that we'd been that I'd completely forgotten about. I used to think of him as my tiny adult. He had this inner calm and maturity. Other people felt it too. Teachers would tell me about his laugh, how he made things at school more fun just by being there. If somebody was ever unhappy, Jesse would find a way to make them feel better. If he heard a baby crying, he wouldn't stop until he got the kid to smile. Jesse just had this idea that you never leave people hurt. If you can help somebody, you do it. If you can make somebody feel better, you do it. If you can leave somebody a little bit better off, you do it. They tell me that's how he died. I guess we still don't know exactly what happened in that school. Maybe we'll never know. But what people tell me is that Jesse did something different. When he heard the shooting, he didn't run and hide. He started yelling. People disagree with the last thing he said. One person said he yelled, "Run." Another person says he told everybody to run now. 10 kids from my son's class made it to safety, and I hope to God that something Jesse did helped them survive that day. What I know is that Jesse wasn't shot in the back. He took 2 bullets. The first one grazed the side of his head, but that didn't stop him from yelling. The other hit him in the forehead. Both bullets were fired from the front. That means the last thing my son did was look at Adam Lanza straight in the face and scream to his classmates to run. The last thing he saw was that coward's eyes. Jesse grew up with guns just like I did. I started shooting skeet when I was 8 years old. My dad was a vice president for years at the local gun club. Jesse had an interest in guns. He had a BB gun. I taught him gun safety. He knew it. He could recite it to you. He got it. And I think that he would have got what we're talking about here today. He liked looking at pictures of Army guns, but he knew that those guns weren't for him. They were for killing people. Before he died, Jesse and I used to talk about maybe coming to Washington someday. He wanted to go up to the Washington Monument. When we talked about it last year, Jesse asked if when we would come, could we meet the president? I'm a little cynical about politicians, but Jesse believed in you. He learned about you in school, and he believed in you. I want to believe in you too. I know you can't give me Jesse back. Believe me, if I thought you could, I'd be asking you for that. But I want to believe that you will think about what I told you here today. I want to believe that you'll think about it and then you'll do something about it. Whatever you can do to make sure that no other father has to see what I've seen. You can start by passing legislation to take these senseless weapons out of the hands of people like Adam Lanza. Do something, he said. Do something. 7 years later, we haven't done anything. And so we're down here on the floor tonight, begging our colleagues to put a bill on the floor, amend it, debate it, do whatever you want. But let's not stay silent any longer. I yield the floor.
Madam President.
Senator from Rhode Island.
We are here tonight when we should not be, because the epidemic, the pageant of gun violence in this country should have been addressed by us by now. We have not acted. We have not acted in large part because we are engaged in a bizarre, self-inflicted political experiment in this country in which we allow big special interests to use secret money in elections to manipulate our politics. This ought to be easy. There have been 293 mass shootings since January 1st, 2019, this year alone. These tragedies have galvanized the American public in support of sensible restrictions on guns. And the amount of agreement among the American public is astounding. 86% of Americans support implementing what we call red flag laws that allow a judge to remove guns from someone who is determined to be a danger to himself or others. 86%. You couldn't barely get 86% of the Senate to agree on the day of the week. 89% support expanding federal background checks to cover private sales and to close the gun show loophole. 86% support an assault weapons ban. 70% support a ban on large capacity magazines. These are large popular majorities. And in a functional democracy, we would listen to them, we would hear them, we would honor them, and we would respond to this bloodshed. Why we have not done that takes us on a sordid crawl through the sewers of modern politics inhabited by the National Rifle Association. The National Rifle Association spent $30 million supporting President Trump. No wonder they can undo all of our work with a simple phone call to the Oval Office. But it's much worse than that. Reports emerged last year that the NRA accepted money from foreign sources, including Russian banker and Putin ally Alexander Torshin, and spent that money in politics in America. Senator Wyden sent letters to the NRA and to the Treasury Department about these reports. The NRA responded, maintaining that it properly segregates any foreign donations so that they're not used for political purposes. Fat chance of that with money being fungible. I joined Senator Wyden on a follow-up letter renewing the request following the arrest of Maria Butina, an evident NRA go-between. The IRS, under President Trump, took no action against the NRA in response to these allegations. In August, the Federal Election Commission deadlocked 2-2 on whether to investigate this matter at all. The FEC is so locked up on this now that they wouldn't even investigate. FEC Commissioner Weintraub, in frustration, wrote, "Some allegations are too serious to ignore, too serious to simply take the NRA's denials at face value, too serious to play games with. Yet in this matter, my colleagues ran their usual evidence-blocking play, and the Commission's attorneys placed too much faith in the few facts the NRA put before us." So we can't even look into the extent of Russian interference in our politics through the NRA. It goes on. Last fall, the Campaign Legal Center and Gifford Center filed complaints with the Federal Election Commission alleging that the NRA was evading the anti-coordination rules of our elections between the Trump campaign and with various Republican Senate campaigns. The complaints allege that the NRA and the campaigns coordinated spending through a GOP media consulting firm. What had the media consulting firm done? It had set up a series of shell corporations through which the campaigns paid. We've all used media consulting firms in getting to the Senate. Which of those media consulting firms set up shell corporations? In fact, these shell corporations, these supposedly separate companies, shared staff, office space, and other resources so that the firm coordinated the ad buys between the NRA and the campaigns. Once again, the FEC did nothing, so the campaign legal centers had to sue the Federal Election Commission and District Court. The NRA's political spending has more than quintupled since the Supreme Court, I should say more specifically, since 5 Republican appointees on the Supreme Court allowed unlimited anonymous money into our political system. From $10 million in 2010, the year of the Citizens United decision, to about $55 million in the 2016 election. The NRA now spends unlimited amounts of dark money on political ads. They can come after people, they can threaten people, they can make promises to people, and that is why 86%, 89% of the United States public gets ignored around here. When Representative Raskin and I wrote the NRA and the consultants about this coordination scheme, guess what these supposedly independent groups did? They wrote back to us in the same letter from the same lawyer. Some independence. And of course, we're still waiting on the FEC to take any action at all. By way of a visitor's guide to the sewer of modern politics inhabited by the NRA, ask unanimous consent that a September 17th article from The Trace called A Guide to Every Known Investigation of the NRA be appended to my remarks as an exhibit. I'll close where I began, Madam President. There have been 293 mass shootings since January 1st of this year, and the American public has an extraordinarily common voice for red flag laws, for expanding federal background checks, closing the gun show loophole, banning assault weapons, and banning large capacity magazines. And we don't listen to the popular will here because of the menace that the NRA has become in our politics, the anti-democratic menace that the NRA has become. I yield the floor.
Madam President,
Senator from New York.
I rise tonight to join the chorus of Democratic senators in this chamber demanding action to address the American gun violence epidemic. We stand here tonight on behalf of the tens of millions of Americans from one end of the country to the other who are crying out for change. Every few months, it seems, our nation is rocked by another horrifying mass shooting. El Paso and Dayton are only the latest entries in our National Register of Tragedy, a list that stretches from Parkland to Pittsburgh, Charleston to Columbine, Aurora to Orlando, Blacksburg to Binghamton, San Bernardino to Sandy Hook, and to Las Vegas. Because that ever-growing list can sometimes seem abstract, let's not forget the specific places where these awful shootings occurred: movie theaters and nightclubs, shopping malls and office parks, music festivals and traffic stops, churches, synagogues, mosques, colleges, high schools, and an elementary school. Our hearts remain with the families of the victims and the survivors of these mass shootings whose lives were turned upside down in an instance by madmen who never should have had access to a gun. The touching letter that Senator Murphy read from one of his constituents whose child died at Sandy Hook is just one of many testaments to that turning upside down, instantly ruining your life forever by one of these horrible, awful incidents. At the same time that our hearts are with tens of thousands more whose lives were ended or forever altered by everyday gun violence, that doesn't make the headlines, but we remember them too. No less tragic, no less pain from the parents who lost children, the brothers and sisters, sons and daughters who lost mothers and fathers. Whether it's in a mass shooting or an individual shooting, people who shouldn't have guns are killing our fellow American citizens, and Congress sits there on its hands. The Senate does anyway, and does nothing. Now let me mention a few stories of New Yorkers whose lives were cut short by gun violence just this year. And the list goes on and on, I assure you. Norzell Aldridge of Cheektowaga in Western New York was a youth football coach. He was shot in the chest and killed a few weeks ago while trying to break up a fight at a park on Buffalo's East Side. Coach Aldridge's team had just finished playing the first game of their season. Ryan Williams Cannon, a 21-year-old from Syracuse, was shot and killed in March as he was leaving the corner store. He was the youngest of 7 siblings. He had just earned his GED in October. Ryan's family said he was like a father to his nephew, sneaking candies to him behind his mother's back. Shaquille Khan of Johnson City was murdered by a masked gunman in April while he was closing up his restaurant. He, Shaquille, was the sole provider for his wife and his 3 children, 14, 12, 2008. May God rest their souls. Now I could stand here for hours and tell 100 more stories, each one as heartbreaking as the next. Each one senseless violence that might not have occurred had we had adequate laws on the books. Each one living, all the people around them, their families, their friends, their communities, devastated by the recklessness, senselessness of this gun violence. It's our solemn duty to these victims of these terrible tragedies. They can't speak for themselves, but their memories call down to us for justice, to cure this terrible plague of gun violence that claims tens of thousands of lives every single year, lives every single day.
I just really wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart for standing up for something that to us means a lot, the Bill of Rights. And Open Carry Texas has a goal of definitely fostering a cooperative spirit with law enforcement. Yeah. And so I know sometimes it's tough, but like when that asshole came all the way from Houston to be an asshole with guns and knives and stuff like that, you guys handled yourselves very well. And that's
6 minutes.
It's something like these problems can't be fixed by just passing laws sometimes.
That's right. That's right.
And so really the solution has to come from the community to love each other better and encourage people to take responsibility for their own selves. So
well,
thank
thanks
you
for taking the
very
time
much.
to come.
Can I take a selfie with you, sir?
Sure.
I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. God bless you. Thank you for your comments the other day.
You bet.
Can I get a
Keepers? Oh, I got it. And on behalf of veterans here in El Paso, thank you for everything you and your office do. Stay safe out there and God bless.
Could we get a picture with you, sir?
Sure.
Okay.
I got you. I have an awesome camera.
Hurry up. Get in there, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, you bet.
Thanks a lot, sir.
It's kind of shady.
Can I take it with this one?
I know you're not about politics. You're just speaking what you think is what people need to hear for, because your responsibility is to the community safety. Yeah. And so, anyway, I'll let you. Thank you for your time.
No problem.
Yeah,
Guys,
stay safe again.
Hang in
God
there,
bless.
right?
Great job, sir. Thank you.
You bet. Take care.
Have a good day, Chief.
45, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
You gotta call balls and strikes. And yesterday he went to bat for some important stuff.
When I think about him, chief of police, although the mayor's his boss,
yeah,
he's like, yeah, you're my boss, but you don't run the department. It's my department.
He's done some really. He's not released guys that should have been fired.
Sort of like he's not like Sheriff Wiles where he takes it as political. He does his job because that's his job.
Yeah, he thinks what in his mind, with his honest perspective, what he thinks is best because he's charged with the community safety. And law enforcement sometimes makes mistakes, and it's our job as citizens to hold them to account. But if we don't show appreciation for when they say the right thing or do the right thing, you gotta commend them and you gotta back them up.
Something I learned from you too.
I don't think he remembers me though, but I used to meet a lot with him when we used to join up.
What's up? How you doing? No, I'm going up to my rally. I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can. You can have pistols on Capitol grounds.
Just hold on just a second. I'm talking to you.
I don't want to talk to you. I have no reason to talk to you.
No, I'm detaining you, right?
What are you detaining me for?
Because you have a weapon that is...
I have a pistol. Are pistols not allowed on Capitol grounds? Then leave me alone.
Sir, you stop.
I am not going to stop. If you arrest me for having a lawful pistol, this is not going to look good on you guys. You better call your boss right now.
You stop right there, or
you stop bothering me and get out of my way. Get out of my way.
Sir.
Do you know what a pistol looks like? Do you even know what the law is? Get your hands off me.
Sir, you stand right there.
If you touch me again, I will defend myself. You understand?
Okay, try it.
I said if you touch me again, I will defend myself. Do you understand that?
That kind of weapon is not allowed at the Capitol.
This kind of weapon is allowed here because it's a pistol. So fuck off. Sorry.
State of Texas has a long history of Second Amendment rights, the right to bear arms. It goes back in our history. I'm a gun owner myself. I'm a hunter myself, and I respect and I believe in the right to bear arms, not only to practice recreation, but to protect your home and your family. But today, there's going to be some areas of Texas, and particularly Dallas, that have taken on a more liberal stance or progressive stance when it comes to the right to bear arms. Even though Texas has currently become an open carry state, they're going to look for any way to charge you with a gun offense, particularly if you've been drinking, if you find narcotics on you, if you're in a school zone, if you're in a place prohibitive where the weapons are, or if you're involved in a crime of violence. Remember, it's just like the Old West. They don't want you coming into town having guns on you if you've been drinking. And so when you're out, even if you have your concealed carry permit, you need to be aware if you're charged with any alcohol-related drug offense or family violence offense and you have a weapon on you, you most likely are going to be charged with a UCW. In addition, you have to be aware of any crimes of violence, especially family violence. You're going to lose your right to bear arms under the Second Amendment of the Constitution once they get an affirmative finding of family violence under the Brady Bill. So this is a process that can be very tricky. And that's why you need to call an attorney and discuss these things, especially if you're a proponent of the Second Amendment and you want to continue to bear those arms, because if you make that fatal mistake, it's not like they have erasers on this, it's permanent. If you run yourself into this situation, get lawyers who know how to handle this defense.
In this screencast, we'll discuss some of the similarities and differences between the Texas Constitution and the United States Constitution. The current Texas Constitution was ratified in 1876. The first article contains the Texas Bill of Rights. One of the things that the Texas Constitution does that the U.S. Constitution does not is protect you from outlawry or banishment. Essentially, in Texas, you can't be ridden out of town on a rail. The Texas Constitution, just like the U.S. Constitution, identifies the crime of treason. It's the only crime found in both constitutions. The Texas Constitution includes a provision for taking a person without warrant into custody if they are of unsound mind.
We're about to get poured on. Afternoon. I'm Sergeant Fox. I'm with the Sheriff's Office. I'm one of the mental health deputies.
Hi.
You know why I'm here?
I believe you're here to talk to me.
Okay. And why would I need to talk to you?
I don't know. Why do you need to talk to me? They're the ones told me that I need to talk to you. So.
Okay. I'll give you all the information that was given to me. Apparently, earlier today, at some point, you were in contact with Fort Hood authorities. Mm-hmm. They found you with a gun in your mouth?
Negative. That is not what happened at all.
And that you told a therapist that you were going to take your kids and go in their lives and in your own.
Never said that.
I was also told that your wife has been taken into custody for an emergency detention in reference to mental health as well today. So that's where I'm at.
Okay.
That's all the information I've got.
Okay.
Were you active duty before?
Yes.
Okay.
So I was active duty for 5 years. I did 3 years Army National Guard.
Okay. Are you hearing any voices?
No.
Seeing anything nobody else sees?
No.
Have you ever tried to hurt yourself before?
Negative.
Okay. You want to hurt yourself now?
No.
Want to hurt anybody else?
Negative.
Is your wife on medication right now?
Yes.
Okay. And she's taking it correctly?
Yes.
Okay. Who are the kids? How many kids are yours inside? 1, 2, 3, 2. What are their names? So, your wife's in inpatient care. Yes. We're assuming she's going to get it. And your plan was to take the kids up to Houston.
No, Chicago.
Chicago. I said you're right. I was even take the kids right now on a Friday afternoon. Drive up to Chicago with a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Yes.
To drop off a handgun with who again?
My twin brother.
With your twin brother, and then drive back with the kids. So
no.
Okay.
My kids are staying up there.
Your kids are staying up there. Okay.
Yes. And then my mom's gonna go
Okay. From your twin brother?
Yes.
What's your twin brother's name?
Steven.
Is there a phone number for him that I can have?
Yep.
And your mom, what is her first name?
Christine. I actually had to look up her number once.
That's all right. Welch?
You want me to look it up?
Please, please. Last name
her
what?
last name is,
And if I call Stephen, he's going to give me the same story that you're giving me.
yes.
If I call your mom, she's going to give me the same story that you're giving me.
I haven't been able to talk to my mom really. All she knows is that Maria's being admitted, and that's as far as we got.
Okay, why are you going all the way to Chicago to drop off a handgun?
Because they won't let Maria return to our home unless the handgun is either in their possession or just gone.
And you didn't want to just let them have it temporarily?
No.
Why? Okay.
Like I explained to these guys, I don't trust them with my firearm.
Okay, fair enough.
¿Está fría? Yeah, apenas la compró. No, pues I wasn't gonna check him, pero como vi que se regresó y he was pacing back here. I'm like, yeah, that's not good. He's just pacing. Yeah. ¿Se encuentra bien? Are you okay? What are you doing? What's that? You're drinking your beer? You alright? Alright, do me a favor, go ahead and place the beer on the ground for me, okay? You're not in trouble, I'm just checking on you, okay? I see you pacing around back here. Alright, go ahead and have a seat over here. So what's going on? What are you doing? Just hanging out? All right. Do you have an ID with you?
I don't know, just...
That's you don't have any type of ID with you? I'm sorry?
I can't get an ID every day.
Why not?
So this is Chief Allen.
Hey, Chief, how are you?
All right.
Hey, my name is CJ. I'm having a problem with your
name is what again?
CJ,
CJ, okay.
or GRISHAM is my last name. I filed a complaint about a month ago with IA, and I'm having several...
Concerning what, exactly?
The treatment of a citizen who was open carrying.
Okay, and where was that?
It was at...
okay, wait. You're complaining for someone else?
I'm filing a complaint about the treatment. I'm with Open Carry Texas. We're a statewide nonprofit. And so...
We don't take complaints from other citizens on an event where we're making an arrest.
There was no arrest. That's the complaint that I have.
Okay. So you are concerned about what here exactly?
Well, a citizen who was open carrying was detained for over half an hour, and they refused to let him go. Then one of the officers went and forced Walmart to issue a trespass warning. Not forced, they convinced them and encouraged them to issue a trespass warrant against this guy because they didn't like the fact that, so when they...
When you say they, are
the
you
officers.
police officers?
The officers,
Okay.
yes. I'm trying to see if I've got the names of the guys off the top of my head here. But what happened was they went and stopped him, and he was open carrying.
Let me ask you some questions. Now,
Sure.
where are you when you're seeing all this?
He sent the individual sent me his video.
Okay.
So,
right, go ahead.
So I saw the video exchange. And so my complaint is that the officers refused to let this guy go in spite of telling him he was breaking no laws, which a detention requires reasonable suspicion or probable cause. And then the fact that they tried to get the Walmart manager to issue a trespass warrant, and then they basically gave him a trespass warrant. Now, I already spoke with Walmart, and they've rescinded that and found out that their manager was basically pressured to issue that trespass warrant based off what the cops were saying.
And how did the police come to be at Walmart?
An employee who was leaving called and said that there was a guy who was had a holstered handgun. And so they responded to that call.
Okay. And your concern is what here now?
Well, my concern is that El Paso PD officers are what I would say amounts to harassment. Because, I mean, 30 minutes is a long time.
I disagree with you on that. Because if this person had the proper credentials, that stoppage probably wouldn't have taken that long. And we showed up to the scene, from what you're telling me, what I just heard, based on someone else calling the police. It wasn't just the police officers saw someone with a gun and then decided on their own to stop him. It was a request from a citizen of the community, and this citizen happened to be an employee, evidently. And so with that being said, the police are obligated to stop and check on the validity of whether or not that person has a concealed permit, which allows him to open carry.
Well, one, that's not true. But two, if I call the office, if I call the police and I say there's a guy driving down the street, are you guys going to stop that car and check his driver's license?
All depends on what you describe as the behavior.
Well, the behavior was that a guy was carrying a holstered handgun.
Okay, and their concern became our concern. That's what I'm getting.
Okay, so if I'm concerned that there's a car on the street driving down the road.
We've done that many times. What you're describing, police stop people all the time. If they come upon the vehicle being described in the situation you're trying to indicate as an example, then the police will drive up if they're able to and monitor that behavior. And if they see the same behavior that was described, they will make a stop.
But the behavior described is that a person's driving.
Say that again?
I said the behavior that I just gave you in my example is that a person is driving.
Okay.
So if I call and say there's a person driving down the road.
Hold on.
Well, sir, you keep cutting me off.
Yes, I am.
Okay, then don't tell me to hold on when I'm trying to explain myself.
Your vagueness on it.
No, I was not vague.
To stop someone, there will be follow-up questions coming from communications in this case. What type of behavior are you seeing? Just because you called in, yes, on the statement you just made, no, we would not stop anyone.
Okay, well, the statement was that there's a guy with a holstered handgun. That was the complaint. I heard it. I have the 911 call.
Okay, so a holstered handgun is a concern to someone, we would stop. And if that person would say, do you have your credentials with you, sir? Yes or no? That's where the stop would be valid based on someone else's concern. If they produce those credentials, then it will most likely be released.
Oh, so you're saying that when there's a call of a perfectly legal activity.
We don't know that until we check.
So, okay, so if I call and say someone's driving down the road, you don't know if they have a license and they're driving legally? Do you stop them and check them? No, I'm not vague. That is the situation. The guy is the guy is driving on the correct side of the road. The guy is not speeding. Okay. Okay, then let me explain this then.
We're not making a complaint. If you want to complain, you need to go to the Texas Department of Public Safety.
I want to read two things to you.
Okay,
all right. No, I'm going to quote the law to you. I'm going to quote the law to you.
You're not going to school me on the law.
Apparently I am, because you're not following it right now. Section 614.0022 gives me a right to file a complaint.
Says who?
It says the freaking law, Government Code 614.022. And then...
and a complaint from whom?
It doesn't say.
Okay, exactly.
And
so
the Texas Constitution...
The person who's being stopped is not complaining...
Wait, so you're adding stuff to the law?
No.
Okay, and here's the second thing. Here's the second part. Here's the second part. The Texas Constitution says that I have a right to, quote, apply to those invested with the powers of government for redress of grievances or other purposes. I am complaining and seeking redress as is my right to your department.
Okay, well, we're not taking that complaint.
Okay, so that is under 3903 official oppression now. Now you are committing a criminal act. Yes, because you are, quote, intentionally denying or impeding the exercise or the enjoyment of any right, privilege, or power.
Public servants are typically held to a higher standard than the rest of society and are expected to refrain from abusing their power. The Texas Penal Code not only includes enhanced penalties for public servants who violate the law, but a specific offense for those who unjustly exceed the scope of their authority. This offense is called official oppression. According to the Penal Code, a public servant under the color of their office or employment, which means in any way or manner that is connected to their position or authority, who intentionally subjects another to mistreatment, arrest or detention, search, seizure, dispossession, assessment or lien known to be unlawful, or denies or impedes another in the exercise or enjoyment of any right, privilege, power, or immunity, commits the offense of official oppression.
So what is the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, and what does that include? Well, generally it is known as the incorporation doctrine, in that it incorporates the due process and equal protection rights of the Constitution to the state government. So all of the protections under the U.S. Constitution are then applied to the state governments. That's called the incorporation doctrine. But generally the 14th Amendment says that no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges and immunities of citizens of the U.S., nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. So again, the 14th Amendment incorporates the protections of the Constitution into state government. It provides for due process in the passage and execution of laws, through same as the Fifth Amendment to the federal Constitution, and it applies for equal protection of individuals within a state. Okay, so collectively this is the 14th Amendment.
The Texas Constitution says that I have a right to, quote, apply to those invested with the powers of government for redress of grievances or other purposes. I am complaining and seeking redress as is my right to your department.
Okay, well, we're not taking that complaint.
Okay, so that is under 3903 official oppression now. Now you are committing a criminal act. Yes, because you are, quote, intentionally denying or impeding the exercise or the enjoyment of any right, privilege, or power.
To apply that, you take it to the authorizing authority, namely a Texas Department of Public Safety.
No, I'll take it to a grand jury. I can see why your department is so out of control. It is led by incompetence. You don't care about the law except as it applies to everyone else but you. I will be at your doorstep, open carrying.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Oh, really?
Yes, I will be at your department's doorstep, and I will be open carrying, and I will bring all kinds of people with me, and you guys won't be able to do anything about it. Well, no one's checking my credentials either.
Well, if that doesn't rise to a level of concern for someone, then you're absolutely right.
I don't care about someone's concern. If I'm concerned about a guy walking down the road in a tank top, are you going to stop him? Since when does my rights...
Mr. Grisham, you go ahead and do what you have to do.
Well, you guys keep violating the law and not caring, violating people's rights, and you just don't care about the law.
One I've ever heard of in the city of El Paso.
Oh, really? I've had several.
That's right.
We've had several.
Well, this is the first I'm hearing of it.
Well, then apparently your troops and the people that we complain to aren't going up the chain of command, and this is the first time I felt like I've had to.
Well, evidently you need to do what you need to do, okay?
Well, you guys need to do what you're supposed to do.
You need to do what you need to do. You go ahead and do it, Mr. Grisham.
All right. All right. Yeah, whatever. So, anyway, all right. Well, obviously, Border Patrol's not going to come out here.
Did you see how long it took them when we came out here? When you called about...
Because they were on top of the hill.
Yeah. But when you called about...
Well, there's still a truck up there.
Yeah, because they haven't crossed it. No, the first time they're not going to come down here until they cross.
They're probably not.
They won't catch them, man. They'll cross. As soon as you guys leave, they'll cross. Yeah. They're not going to cross with everybody standing here.
They're not.
They're not going to cross until when do you?
Let me give you my card. I'm actually trying to get a hold of you.
Cary, Texas.
Yes, sir.
Fighting for gun rights. I interviewed one of the guys. I don't remember who it was, but he was one of them that was proposing constitutional carry.
I'm one of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Yeah, we've been fighting for constitutional carry since we've been in existence.
I don't know why Texas ain't on board with that. I don't.
Because we got a bunch of Democrats in office. Oh, I'm sorry. They call themselves Republicans, but they're
right.
Last I checked, Republicans were supposedly pro-gun, but obviously not. At least not Texas Republicans.
Right.
See, the problem with Texas Republicans is that for so long, Texas was a Democrat state. And then at some point, we flipped to Republican, and you couldn't get elected if you were a Republican. So all these Democrats suddenly decided, oh, I'm going to be a Republican so I can get elected. Back in the 90s.
Right.
And so now we've got a bunch of Democrats who are Democrats, but they run as Republicans because you can't get elected to statewide office in Texas unless you're a Republican. That's why we don't have constitutional carry.
Gotcha.
Because we really still have a bunch of Democrats in office. But the people have gone Republican. But obviously what that means is Republican doesn't mean conservative or pro-liberty anymore. Otherwise we'd have constitutional carry. We wouldn't be fighting our own speaker for it. But anyway, I think we're going to start walking back.
All right, get your guys over here. I'm just going to do a little video here.
Oh, okay.
Live.
Hey guys!
Terry, come here.
Come back this way.
We need your firepower.
I'm just saying that for the camera.
Back in the 1990s, the conservative Supreme Court Chief Justice Warren Burger broke with orthodoxy on this issue, and he said that the modern interpretation of the Second Amendment was a dangerous joke.
If I were writing the Bill of Rights now, there wouldn't be any such thing as the Second Amendment. This has been the subject of one of the greatest pieces of fraud, I repeat the word fraud, on the American public by special interest groups that I have ever seen in my lifetime.
I'm going to tell you something right now, folks. We are under attack. We are under attack on the fact that we got merchant stores that are standing up saying, you know what? We not only don't want you open carrying in our stores, we're considering lobbying for assault weapons bans. Y'all know that? Walmart just came out and openly said that they want an assault weapons ban. If you've been following me for a long time, you understand that George Soros and others have stock in Walmart. A globalist may actually own Walmart right now. What you need to understand is, making a prediction right now, I see 5 more companies coming out in the next couple weeks announce we're going to have that you can't open carry. I'm wondering where Target stands on this. I'm wondering how much longer they're going to hold out before they finally say, you know what, you can't open carry here. Folks, this is an open-faced attack on the Second Amendment. And people are sitting there saying, you know what, you're not going to boycott them, just let them be. You know what, maybe it's time to boycott them. Maybe it's time for your money, your dollars, to go somewhere else. I'm telling you now, you need to start supporting local businesses. Because if you're supporting corporations, you're supporting their paradigm, you're supporting their rules. And most importantly, you're supporting their narrative. An Uber driver actually saved someone, and the guy open carried. Guess what happened a week after he was praised as a hero? Uber announced that they no longer wanted their drivers to carry a weapon on them. People, you better wake up. This is America. We're under attack. Our freedom's under attack. The Second Amendment's under attack. And eventually, it will come down to, they will eventually attack Donald Trump. Wake up, people.
Okay, young man, listen to my instructions and do not make a mistake. You are to keep your legs crossed. Do you understand me?
Yes, sir.
You are to put both of your hands palms down, straight out in front of you. Push yourself up to a kneeling position. I said, keep your legs crossed!
I'm sorry.
I didn't say this in conversation. Put your hand! Hands up in the air! You do that again, we're shooting you. Do you understand?
Please do not shoot me.
Then listen to my instructions. going to shoot you. Do you understand me? Yes, sir. Crawl towards me. Crawl towards me! Yes, sir.
I don't believe anybody can realize the magnitude of the problem until they get into it. Like John said, there's a myriad of reasons.
You're gonna get used to wearing them chains after a while, Luke. But you never stop listening to them clinking. Because they're gonna remind you of what I've been saying. For your own good.
Wish you'd stop being so good to me, Captain.
If somebody feels intimidated, I'm sorry, but liberty is not predicated on someone's feelings. So, suck it up, Buttercup.
How's it going?
Doing yourself, sir?
Huh?
Doing all right?
Yeah, why? What's the emergency I can help you with?
What are you doing here, man?
Just minding my own business. Why? What's going on?
I guess they called. Do you have any weapons on you or anything?
Who called about what?
They had called somebody with a weapon. Do you have a weapon on you, sir?
Oh, well, did I commit a crime?
Do you have a weapon on you, yes or no?
I have a pistol, yes, sir.
Where is it?
It's on my holster.
It's in your holster? Okay. It's in your holster?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody else in the vehicle with you, sir?
No, just me and my kitty.
Just you and your kitty? Okay, sir. What are you doing here at the shopping center? Just shopping? Or?
Well, I went inside to use the restroom.
Okay.
What's the emergency I can help you with?
Do you have your ID on you, please?
Have I committed a crime?
At this point, I need to see your ID, please.
Well, what am I being accused of a crime of?
Because I already explained to you, sir, what I was here for.
No, sir, you didn't. You just said that...
Investigating a subject with the weapon.
Oh, okay.
If you have a right to carry a weapon, that's fine. I just need to see your ID.
Okay, well, have I committed a crime?
I already explained to you one time.
Am I being detained or am I free to go?
Right now, we're investigating the call. I need you to see your ID.
Okay, what crime have I committed?
Well, you need to show me your ID.
No, sir, unless I've committed a crime, I'm not required to show you any ID.
Yes, you do.
No, sir, in the state of Texas, there is no, there's no requirement to identify myself unless I am committed of a crime, unless I'm accused of committing a crime. So I'm asking you again, sir, what crime have I committed?
Do you have your concealed carry?
Well, that would be none of your business unless I committed a crime.
You need to tell us if you have one or not.
No, I do not, sir.
Texas, do you have
No,
one or
sir, I do not need to tell you that. Have I committed a crime?
He's refusing, Sarge. He's refusing.
Is your supervisor here? Can I speak with your supervisor, please?
Hang tight, all right? Hang tight, man.
Can you tell me what crime have I committed?
Hang tight, I already told you.
Okay, well,
Relax.
am I being detained or am I free to go?
You're not free to go right now.
Well, what crime am I accused of being committed?
You're not free to go.